You had the two-time strawweight champion Rose Namajunas returning from what was an over 1 year layoff.
Mhm.
She had lost her title to Carla Esparza in what was one of the more puzzling performances and fights we had seen really ever
Yeah.
in the UFC. There's always been this kind of question mark of, how much Rose really wants to be fighting, how much
Mhm.
she loves it. There's the question I kind of raised of is she's more comfortable trying to chase the belt than she is when she's actually the champion.
Sure.
But now she was going up 10 pounds. She's going up to a new weight class. So that opened up a whole flood of questions that you could
Yes.
have for how she would look in that environment. She goes up against Manon Fiorot, who is no slouch, a top 5 women's flyweight. She
Mhm.
does lose a unanimous decision. Overall, how do you think she looked at 125 pounds?
Manon was big. Manon was pretty significantly larger, but she didn't look bad. I mean, she still looked like Rose. She looked good on the feet, slick, quick, but Manon was just so much more impactful with the shot, so much stronger, and was really able to even outnumber her in that striking department. So she didn't look better than I expected, but she didn't necessarily look worse than I expected. She just looked like Rose 10 pounds heavier, even though her physique literally to me looked like the exact same. She looked like she was a strawweight in there. So it really kind of weird vibes. And now I don't know what she does, if she stays at 125 or not. This is going to be interesting to see how her mindset will be. I know she had that fucked up looking pinky. That didn't look very good. And that happened in the first round. But I felt it was just a very good performance from Manon, not necessarily bad for Rose. I
Hmm.
don't know.
I was a little underwhelmed by both parties here, if I'm being truthful. Like on paper, this is a great win for Manon. Like it is.
Yeah,
I mean, you're going up against a former champion. Doesn't matter if it's a weight class lower.
yeah,
It's Rose Namajunas. She's one of the best women's fighters ever,
yeah.
and you pretty cleanly win this fight.
Hmm.
Um, but man, yeah, when Manon landed, she did land. It seemed more impactful shots, but for someone who we've talked about as being this great striker and
Hmm.
whatnot, is it just me or did her striking look a little sloppy sometimes here? Man, again, or I mean, do you disagree, or are you just not wanting to go that far?
I, I don't know. Like sloppy, probably not, but it wasn't the karate like wow, this all-encompassing striker that we've not even seen that version of her since Tabitha Ricci. The wins have
Yeah,
gotten harder and harder the higher the
yeah.
competition has
No,
gone.
it's true. It's just this fight definitely stood out. Like since this fight where it was fought for the majority of it, it just seemed like some of the technical side of Manon's game that I thought was going to be there wasn't. But
Mhm.
since she seemed to have a size and power advantage, it seemed like she was able to keep Rose off of her for the majority of the 15
Yeah.
minutes. But then for Rose, I felt like it maybe the finger played a part in this, but not. She didn't really mix it up the way I thought she would.
No.
It seemed like she simply was okay with kind of fighting at Manon's pace,
Mhm.
fighting Manon's
Mhm.
game, and being just a half step behind her. That's the way
Yeah.
this went for 15 minutes. Obviously, I bet on Rose, so of course I'm a little more disappointed in what I saw from her. Like she didn't look bad. Like you're kind of right. Like neither one of them looked bad,
Mhm.
but I think I expected more from almost both of them coming in. Like I
Yeah.
just
Okay.
thought what we had seen if Manon was going to come in here. I mean, Dominic, the poll on Twitter that you put of who's
Yeah.
next for the title challenger, dead even
Dead
with
even.
Manon Fiorot and Erin Blanchfield.
Yeah.
I think it's crazy
Mm.
that people
I
think
was a bit
Manon should get
surprised.
a title fight over Erin Blanchfield after watching this fight.
Mhm.
Like, again, I'm not saying it's like this terrible looking win,
Mhm.
but to me, this shows Manon needs another one. I think Erin Blanchfield has shown a lot more in her wins than what Manon Fiore has shown up to this point in hers.
Especially when
And
you look at the higher level competition, right? I think
yeah,
that
I mean,
matters.
Rose is definitely a big win, but it's just someone who has not fought at this weight class. And
Mhm.
yeah, what you just said too, even besides that, Tyler Santos, Jessica Andrade,
Yeah.
even Molly McCann, I guess, like seems a little bit stronger anyway.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but do you want to give kind of your take on or what kind of side of the aisle you're on, if it's Manon, if it's Erin, who gets the next title shot?
If I had to pick right now, Eileen, Aaron, and the only really now we just wait. We wait a week and a half. We get the
Mhm.
rematch between Grassa and Valentina. Valentina wins, likely run back a trilogy. I think you do Manon and Aaron at that point, but only
Mhm.
if Alexa wins though and stays the champ. I think Aaron needs to be in, and then Manon can even fight Valentina or fight somebody else on the up and coming. They're going to keep coming at 125 pounds right now. But if I'm picking one, it's Aaron. Better looking against the higher quality opponents. I think that matters right now when they're like neck and neck, essentially.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. We've been kind of hitting that home, like the idea, well, Valentina could very likely win. I mean, she's favored to beat Grasso.
Yes. Yeah.
And if she does, the whole trilogy aspect is there. But is that a guarantee? Like, is it really guaranteed that Grasso would get that trilogy, or does it have to be a very close fight? Like, if Valentina goes in there and
Yeah.
finishes Grasso, do you really run a trilogy? Because that didn't happen with Nunes and
That's true.
Pena.
That's a good question. That's true.
Especially when you
Um.
have such interesting challenges right there
Yeah.
with Blanchfield, with Manon. Feels like you kind of move on from that whole trilogy talk.
Yeah, I think unless it is tight, very razor thin, you're probably right. I think a decisive finish by Valentina would call the next up and comer. Yeah. And that kind of keeps the division moving too.
Yeah, but I mean, it very well if it's a very close fight, which I foresee it kind of being pretty close this time around. I think it's going to be pretty neck and neck.
I kind of lean Alexa again, but that, we'll talk about that next.
Well, the fact that she's an underdog, you kind of makes you want to hammer it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, she won the first fight, right? That was
Yeah.
one of my biggest hits of the year. So
Yeah.
me, I'm over here like all about it. But I guess another interesting angle, Dominic, is Rose was in this position, and we thought if Rose won, it was really going to be an interesting wrinkle to how she would
Uh-huh.
fit into maybe surpassing Erin Blanchfield and fighting for a title. But
Hmm.
now that she's lost, what do you think is next for her? Because it seems like every time we are in this position with Rose where she's lost, it's a whole lot of we don't know what's next for Rose.
Yeah. This may be a little bit too little too late because you're an advocate of this type of matchup that I'm about to say, but is now the time we do the trilogy with her and Jessica Andrade? They're
Yeah.
both on the skids, flip flopping in between weight classes, but they're the same two. I think if she's gonna fight again, you do the trilogy with Jessica.
I want that. I love it. I
Hmm.
do. Unfortunately, I just don't think there's anything to it anymore. I don't
That's
think
yeah,
I
yeah.
think the skid for Andrade, she has to work her way back up.
Hmm.
Rose is still like can carry her own. Like, I don't think this loss is going to hurt her too much. Andrade, unfortunately, I feel like her stock is just plummeted this
Hmm.
this year, which is it makes me so sad because
Hmm.
she's just a dog, man.
Ah,
She's too much into it for her own good, damn it.
yes, yeah.
But what I think we could see next, 'cause I think the majority of people, the take was, we kind of just prefer Rose at 115 pounds.
After
But there
seeing the
was,
size,
yeah, there
yeah.
was an interesting note though in the post-fight press conference from Rose when she was asked, and I'm just gonna say if Valentina Shevchenko loses to Alexa Grasso, I think that's the fight that they might want to do next. Valentina
Ooh,
Shevchenko versus Rose Namajunas, because what fight is bigger for either of those two as they move
yeah.
forward?
Damn,
If they
that's
both are
fun.
coming off losses,
Mm,
those are two
ah,
legends of women's MMA. It seems
that's
like that's
great.
the right time if you're not going to have them, because I think Rose was sort of there. If she had won and Valentina had won, I
Yeah,
feel like that was the fight you were getting next.
yeah. I
But
like
now, if
that.
they both lose, why not do that as like a big feature bout on a pay per view or
Hmm.
fight night headliner somewhere?
Yeah, I really like that.